Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast.
And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. I'm your host tonight, Christopher Felice, joined by my friend, Joe Capozzi. Joe, how are you doing?
Another good week of football, one in Dynasty, so that's always a plus. And hopefully tonight's game that's going on right now keeps me alive in guillotine. How do you do this week?
Overall, I did pretty good. I'm pretty satisfied with how I did. I think I won like 6 out of my 10 leagues. I'm definitely not winning in Vampire, so no Vampire update this upcoming Wednesday. Sorry, guys. Sorry. But yeah, no. I think overall pretty good week. I might win in our Dynasty League too, which I was actively throwing in against Richie, which is a little weird, to be quite honest. Sorry,
I love that.
Sorry, Richie. Listen, Richie hated Puka. He came back this week, had a great time. Cooper Kupp also did nice. I had Lad McConkey in. He had we had a lot of fun this week. But besides the point, you're not here to listen to us about that. You're here to listen to us about waiver wire stuff. So let's get right into that. Starting off first with the quarterback selection. I got Matthew Stafford as the first guy up here. Rostered in 39% of fantasy leagues on Yahoo. His next matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. His stats this past week, he completed 24 passes for 279 yards and 4 touchdowns on 34 attempts with 1 interception. Joe, what are we thinking about the revitalization of Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, I mean, Stafford, we all know Stafford's a good quarterback, and now that he has Kupp and Puka back, there's no reason that you don't want to start him. I'm a little skeptical if Kupp's going to get traded still or not. I don't know if some of the listeners and viewers have seen Kupp posted like a real sentimental video, I think on Instagram. So that might mean he has one foot out the door and he's going to get traded to a new team. But if he stays, there's no world where you don't start Stafford. I'm surprised that he's not owned in more leagues. So if he is available in your league, perfectly good candidate to grab for a quarterback, especially on bye weeks coming up. So 100% starting him.
Yeah, this is definitely a very surprising sort of like percentage looked at, considering like how it probably looked at the beginning of the season, and you know, now we're here. You know, obviously because of the receiver just complete outage that they had. How much fab are you throwing in on this guy?
If I need a quarterback, let's see, I'd probably go like $10 of $100 fab for Matt Stafford, because he's probably there's gonna be multiple bids for him for other people that need quarterbacks. So I'd say like between 10 and 15 for Stafford. It's the most important position in football, and if he's on your waiver wire, I'm grabbing him.
Okay. Sounds good. Moving on, our next guy, a very fun and frisky candidate, Bo Nix, 25% rostered in fantasy leagues. Matchup next week against the Baltimore Ravens. This past week against the Panthers, he completed 28 passes for 284 yards and 3 touchdowns on 37 attempts, had 5 rushing attempts for 4 yards and a touchdown. What do we think about Bo Nix? Is this luck because of some bad defenses for the past maybe a couple weeks? Is he going to get tested now against the Ravens? What's our thought process here?
I definitely, if you're looking to pick up Bo, I would pick him up with tempered expectations. I mean, he did just play the Panthers. So, and if you watch Thursday's show with the start and sit-ems with me and Matt, we told you play anyone against the Panthers because they look terrible right now. I don't think it's a one-off thing just against bad defenses, though. And if you can get Bo, I don't know if I'd start him over some of these other guys. Like Stafford, I considered starting over a lot of other guys. Bo, I'm a little hesitant on. His rushing upside is very appealing, though. So I'd be anywhere from like $8 to $10 fab for him.
Alrighty. Perfect. Cool. Let's go with our final really fun candidate of the week here at quarterback. We got Jameis Winston. 6% rostered in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. Going up against the Chargers next week. His stats this last week is 27 completions for 334 yards, 3 touchdowns on 41 attempts, and 1 fumble. Joe, what are we thinking of Jameis Winston? Are we loving it? Are we not loving it? It seems that Amari Cooper leaving doesn't hamper him at all. What are we thinking?
Oh yeah, I would definitely be picking him up. I mean, 41 attempts is a lot of passing attempts for a team. You love to see it. He's just throwing the ball. I'd pick him up. Great bye week candidate that you could slot in there. You wouldn't want to spend too much fab on him. He's only rostered in 6% of leagues, so you could probably get him. Probably even if you put $1 fab, you might be able to get him over a lot of people that are just doing free waiver wire pickups for him. So I'd be between none to $1 fab for Jameis Winston here.
Awesome. And with that being said, that is our quarterbacks for this week. Moving on to our running backs, a bit shallow this week, not going to lie. Our first guy up the waiver wire for running backs is, I'm going to butcher this last name, Isaac Guerendo. I really hope I got that somewhat right. 8% roster in Yahoo. His next week matchup is a bye. This past week, he had 14 rushing attempts for 85 yards, 1 touchdown, and he had 4 targets for 3 catches and 17 yards. Joe, what are we thinking here? We've seen some promising news on Christian McCaffrey as well in the coming days here. I just saw today from ESPN that he's going to hit the ground running on practice this week or something like that for after the bye when they play. Jordan Mason obviously suffered the injury. What's happening here? What should we be doing?
I mean, it's tough, especially the team's going into a bye right now. I'd be all in if they had a game this coming week because we don't know if Chris McCaffrey's going to be 100% yet. If not, then Guerendo will be the guy if Mason's still hurt. But they do have that extra bye week for McCaffrey to heal up, so this might be kind of like a trap pickup. I'd still maybe, if you have the roster room, throw him as a stash, especially if McCaffrey isn't ready to go. This is 100% a play, in my opinion, because you know how much the 49ers love to run the ball. So, fab-wise, this is a tough one to judge. Can
we separate this into 2 distinctions here? Let's say you had Jordan Mason or McCaffrey, right? That's one angle of fab, and the other angle of fab is you had neither.
Okay, if you had Jordan Mason or McCaffrey, see it's tough. It's tough. If you have both, then it's different. Because if you just had Jordan Mason, McCaffrey,
let's do all 3. Let's make it into 3 categories. Let's say you had both. Let's say you had one or the other, or let's say you had neither. What's the thought process?
I don't think I'm spending over $5 fab for him just because McCaffrey is so close to coming back. I can't justify in my head spending more than $5 fab for someone that I literally might pick up and then just never play.
I mean, at this point, you've gone this long without McCaffrey, right? What's another week, right?
Yeah. What's another week? What's another 2? Because there's a bye week. So what's another 2 weeks?
Exactly. Man, what a real turbulent season for that.
Number 1 draft pick in redraft leagues.
Yeah, I fell victim to that in a couple of leagues. Not gonna lie, definitely fell for that. Moving on here, I'm gonna lump these 2 guys together because they're actually playing right now as we speak. I got Jalen Warren and Tyrone Tracy, 47% and 52% rostered respectively. Next week, Jalen Warren is on a bye, and the Tyrone Tracy and the Giants are going up against the Commanders. What is our thought process on these 2 players? Who are you prioritizing over whom? There's obviously, Jalen Warren has Najee Harris as well there. Tyrone Tracy has Devin Singletary there. Who is the guy that you would rather have longevity-wise for the rest of the season as maybe your flex play or backup injury guy just in case?
I have to pick one of these 2 guys.
Sure, why not? It'd be funny.
I guess I don't like either of them. I guess Tyrone Tracy. I mean, okay. Najee has looked way better this year than years past, so that gives me a little hesitant on Jalen Warren. But again, I mean, neither of these guys are the main guys in their respective teams. They're both backups to the main guys, so.
Mm-hmm. No, it's fair. Yeah, well, like I said, this is a very shallow group here of running backs. I really tried to find as many people as possible, which is why we got our next guy, our last running back that we're going to talk about. We got Jaleel McLaughlin, 15% rostered, going up against the Ravens. Eight attempts at 47 yards, had 1 catch in the air for 1 target, 9 yards, and 1 touchdown. Is this just okay? Yeah, I believe it was like 12.9 fantasy points last week or something. I know it was 12 point something. Is this just like a one-off? Like it just kind of happened because of that touchdown? Is this like a sign of the future? What's the thought here?
Jalil's always been pretty involved in that offense. Of course, Javonte is the main guy there. I would 100% start Javonte over Jalil. Javonte had 58% snap share last week compared to Jalil's 32, so there's no change there. I think Jalil got lucky with his, well, not lucky, but he did well with his opportunities and was able to get those points. But yeah, I wouldn't panic as a Williams owner. I'm still starting Williams over Jalil. But it's a good stash pickup if you're if you're really desperate for a running back. I mean, he's serviceable. I mean, he does get points. It's not a ton, but he's going to get you some running back points.
He'll get you like 6, and you just kind of have to accept that.
More like 4.
Yeah,
he scored 4 2 weeks in a row. So
true. All right. Well, moving on to a more, I think, exciting area here. I got wide receivers coming up next. Our first prospect here is Keon Coleman, 41% rostered in Yahoo Fantasy, going up against the Dolphins next week. 7 targets, 5 yards. 7 targets for 5 receptions for 70 yards and 1 touchdown. Very crowded room. Amari Cooper's there. Khalil Shakir is there. Notable also say that Khalil Shakir had a fantastic week last week. Is Keon Coleman a trap? Is he maybe going to kind of be part of this triple threat now? Is Josh Allen good enough to do that? What is the thought here?
Yeah, I think Keon Coleman is the guy there.
The guy?
I mean, as a Amari Cooper owner and him getting 2 targets last week for 0.8 points, I think I'm all in on Coleman and Shakir. Coleman and Shakir I believe are still the number 1 and 2s. As good as Amari Cooper is, I don't think he's really taken over that top slot. I mean, even the first week where he had that big 16-point game, he only played 35% snaps and was only targeted 5 times. Granted, he was new on the team, but this week he's been on the team for a while. He was only targeted twice. He only played 50% of snaps, where Coleman played 83% of snaps. So in my head, it's Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir are the 2 main guys, and then you have Amari Cooper as kind of the 3rd wide receiver right now on that team. So it's not a trap. If he's not rostered, I'd pick him up. I'd play him. Yeah, that's simple as that.
All right, you heard it here first. Go pick him up. Our next guy here is a very, very turbulent choice, but I think the prospect of why you would pick him up is very, very funny. Josh Downs, 21% rostered on Yahoo, go up against the Vikings next week. He had 1 rush for 14 yards, and then through the air, he had 9 targets, 4 yards, 9 targets, 4 receptions. I keep saying that. My apologies. 109 yards and 1 touchdown. This is obviously, I mean, we've made it very apparent for a while now, right? You're picking this guy up if you can confirm that Joe Flacco is playing at that week. Given all the stuff going on in the Colts right now, Joe, how are you feeling on Josh Downs?
He's the perfect example of a boomer bust candidate. I mean, how do you go from scoring 0.8 fantasy points to 24.2 is crazy. It's like they're playing musical chairs on the Colts of who's going to have a big week. I mean, you had Alec Pierce have a 24.9 point game, and then the next week play more snaps and have zero fantasy points. So it's really whoever Anthony Richardson wants to throw to that week is who he's just throwing the ball to. And sadly, as a Pittman owner, it seems to never be Michael Pittman. So, yeah, you know how I feel about Anthony Richardson. We won't get into that.
Yeah,
but
we'll move on from there. Yeah,
I just don't think you can ignore him. I think he's worth a stash, but I wouldn't feel confident starting him every week. But I think he's a good flex play because if he does have that boom week, you're like, wow, I'm glad I started him. But then if he has a 0.8 point week like he did week 7, I mean, you're going to feel terrible. So it's gambling. It's a gamble.
Okay. So our next guy is a very, very another turbulent guy here. Has a bye week next week. We have Ricky Pearsall, currently 13% owned in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. He had one rush for 39 yards, and then he caught all 4 of his targets for 38 yards through the air. Obviously didn't have a fantastic week last week. Is this a guy that you're stashing? They're dealing with injuries right now. I think Debo got re-injured. Obviously, Ayuk is gone. Juwan Jennings also had that injury. They're going through a bye week, so obviously they're going to look a little different going out of it. But remember, we have to remember this guy was a first-round draft pick, right? Is this a guy that has the potential to kind of carry on through after this bye week and kind of maybe potentially win you some weeks in fantasy as a wide receiver 2 flex? Go ahead.
Yeah, this guy of the wide receiver list, probably maybe besides Keon Coleman, which you're most likely not going to be able to get because he's 41% rostered in most leagues. But Ricky Pearsall, in my opinion, is one of the pickup candidates of the week. With that Ayuk injury, Debo going down again, but even with Debo there, I mean, Ricky looked pretty good. I mean, it wasn't a great game for the 49ers offensively. I mean, it didn't look great. He only had 4 targets. He only played 59% of snaps, but I do think he is a core piece of that offense, and I would look to grab him. He's a good wide receiver too, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I just want to point this out in there. Out of all 10 of my leagues, right, that I was in, I'm going to discount the 2 dynasty leagues that I'm in. So out of 8 of them, I picked up Ricky Pearsall in 6 of them, just as a stash. Feeling as if I had the space, which I did in all those leagues, I went, okay, this could work out for me. This could be funny. So that's what I'll say. That I did that last week. That was before I knew Debo was going to play this past week. But yeah, definitely someone to look out for. Our final wide receiver on this list here is Cedric Tillman, 19% roster, going up against the Chargers next week. 9 targets, 7 receptions, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. Is this the guy in the Browns now with Amari Cooper gone? Is this kind of who we gotta rely on? We all thought maybe Jerry Jeudy was going to have maybe a resurgence, maybe Elijah Moore, but no. I mean, this guy past 2 weeks. I mean, last week, 82% of snaps. I mean, he had 12 targets, 8 receptions. Is this kind of the future here? What are we thinking here?
Yeah, I like Tillman a lot. I think he's another really good ad candidate this week. I've never been a big Jerry Jeudy fan, and with Jameis Winston at the helm, slinging the rock, Tillman, big benefactor, Elijah Moore, even Njoku at the tight end position, all these guys, their value went from being very low with Watson to very high with Mr. Jameis. So I like Tillman. I think, in my opinion, I think he's the best wide receiver on the team. So I'd pick him up if you can. I'd probably throw $10 fab at him.
Okay. All right. Well, seeing how obviously, there wasn't a lot going on in running backs, but we'll do this with the wide receivers here. Rank these 4 right now in terms of who you would be prioritizing over. I know you talked really highly of Ricky Pearsall, Keon Coleman. What is the exact order here?
Yeah, it's unlike running back where it's kind of shooting in the dark right now this week. Wide receivers, all 4 of these guys, I'd love to pick up. In terms of order, I think it is Keon Coleman is at the top of my list, probably followed by Ricky Pearsall, then Tillman, and then Josh Downs at the bottom, just because of that boomer bust factor.
Okay, you heard it here first. There we go. Now we're going to go into the dark abyss destruction hole of everyone hates this position, tight ends.
They were all scoring this week. It was National Tight End Day. They were going crazy.
It is true. It is so inconsistent. I'm just going to give the 2 guys here that are consistently doing stuff that are somehow surprisingly not rostered on more teams. Here, I got Zach Ertz and Hunter Henry. Zach Ertz, 31% roster in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. Hunter Henry, 39%. Ertz is going up against the Giants. Henry going up to the Titans. Ertz had 11 targets, 7 receptions, and 77 yards. And Hunter Henry had 6 targets for 5 receptions and 45 yards. This seems to be a pretty consistent trend that these guys are kind of doing well. And I feel like that's, definitely promising considering that their next opponents are also just not the best defenses all around. are, who are we prioritizing over here? I mean, obviously, I know we only got 2 guys here, but like, who's your take in this kind of unfortunate cesspool that is the tight end position?
I actually think I'd probably target Hunter Henry over Zach Ertz, just mainly because he has a higher percentage snap share and he looks to get more consistent targets than Zach Ertz does. Zach Ertz had, for the past 3 weeks, 5, 5, and then 11, and Hunter Henry had 5, 9, 6, but he also plays more percentage of the snaps, so he's more likely to see those targets. That's my personal reasoning, but they're both good candidates. The tight end's always a wild card who you're starting, but I'd be happy picking up either of these guys.
How did you feel last week seeing Kyle Pitts catch 2 touchdowns?
Oh, on my bench, it was great. Great, loved it.
That's so depressing. I really thought you were going to... Who did you start instead?
I sat him for Brock Bowers in one league, and then I sat him for... I think Sam Laporta in another league.
I think those are both fair, thought processes. I don't think anyone would blame you for doing that.
Yeah,
Sam Laporta did pretty good though. Actually, last week, now I think about it, right? Yeah. So that's fine. I mean, not as good as 2 touchdowns, I'm pretty sure, but
No, but Tucker Kraft did well too. All the tight ends really did well.
Listen, Tucker Kraft is so funny because I realized that I also picked him up in the 5th round the same year I picked up Puka Nacua. I should just change my team name to King of the 5th and then never pick up a 5th round person ever again. It'd be really funny. Besides the point. Enough, stroking my own ego. Moving on out of the tight end position to our defensive streamers. I got the New England Patriots going up against the Tennessee Titans. 5% rostered. Titans are just kind of a mess right now. Will Levis, Mason Rudolph, I don't care. There's also, tons of pieces probably going to be traded away between God knows, next coming weeks. So who knows what that team's going to look like. Honestly, this team could be like the new Panthers where you pick up any defense going up against them. You'll probably be fine. Next, we got the New Orleans Saints versus the Panthers. 33%. Don't really have to justify that too much. It's the Panthers. Followed by the Commanders going up against the New York Giants, 12%. Daniel Jones, not great. I know Malik Neighbors is a phenom and fantastic, but that's about it. There's really nothing else going on for that offense. And then we got the Bengals going up against the Las Vegas Raiders, 31%. We talked about Cedric Tillman. Not Cedric Tillman. Ignore me. We didn't talk about anybody there. I don't know who was the leading guy there on Raiders. Was it like Trey Tucker or something? Did they have another person do better than him last week?
I don't think so. I mean, Brock Bowers is still there, but he had a kind of a slow week compared to his previous week's production. But
it's not looking. I mean, Devontae's gone. They don't have an actual quarterback. It's really not looking good. That's a very safe start. Anything to add?
No, all those look great. I mean, my vote's whoever's playing the Panthers, but
true. No, yeah, very, very true. With that being said, our bye week's coming up. We got the Niners and the Steelers on bye this upcoming week. So just watch out for that. And am I missing anybody on the bye week? I'm pretty sure those are the only 2 teams, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And with that being said, that is our waiver show this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope this helps all of you out in this coming waiver wire. Hopefully all of you are doing fantastic in your leagues, unless if you're facing me. In that case, I really hope I'm beating you. But yeah, with that said, please follow, share, subscribe, whatever you're watching this on. And without further ado, have an excellent night. And I hope you guys enjoy Monday Night Football, however that ends up. See you around.
Good luck.